Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hayes' Higher Learning. My name is Ashley Hayes, and I am so excited. This episode is part of my new series called So You Want to Be a Poet. And in this series, we explore poetry as a career and the different ways that it can look like in our lives. A lot of people ask me, Ashley Hayes, how do you do poetry for a living? Can I make a living off of it? And I often tell people there's so many ways to be a poet and so many ways to approach this career, either part-time or full-time. So today I am talking to an amazing poet from North Carolina, Mia Willis. Mia S. Willis is a Black performance poet from Charlotte, North Carolina. Mia's poem, Hetacomb, won the 2018 Foothill Editors Prize and earned nominations for 2018 Pushcart Prize, as well as for inclusion in Best New Poets 2018. Mia was also named a 2019 Lambda Literary Fellow in Poetry, as well as the 2019 Young Artist Fellow at Shah Shamaz Shah North Residency in Pine Plains, New York. Their debut poetry collection, Monster House, was the 2018 winner of the Cave Canem Foundation's Toy Deracote and Cornelius Eady Chapbook Prize and is available now with J. Alive Books. Connect with me on Facebook and Twitter at Poet in the Hat. And without further ado, please welcome Mia S. Willis to Hayes' Higher Learning. Mia, how are you?
I'm so good, Ashley Hayes. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. I have had the joy of being a part of your poetry journey for the past few years, and also just watching you blossom and watching you win these awards and knock folks on upside the head with your work. And it has been a joy. And I'm so grateful you have joined me today.
It's absolutely all love, Ashley. Obviously, you are a hometown hero here in Atlanta. So anything I can do to hold you up, I want to do for you.
I appreciate that. So it's a very interesting time in the world. And although it's important for me that Hayes' Higher Learning also explore joy and explore what we need in our day-to-day lives, I don't want to in any way ignore what is also happening politically in this climate. Mia, would you mind talking a couple minutes? How is this affecting you? How are you feeling about the riots, about COVID? I know it's heavily affecting. Do you have any thoughts you'd like our listeners to know? Any views that you'd love for them to know that you have?
Oh, for sure. I have always been ready to act in times of urgent justice. I think that we owe it to our heritage as Black people in this country to answer the call of that history, answer the call of individuals who have come before us and acted before us. And so I don't think any poem that I write could not be against the police. I don't think any poem that I write could not be against the marginalization of legislation. I don't think that any poem I write could in somehow not express the complexity of Black material conditions. But I also understand that my poem doesn't change those material conditions simply by existing. I have to do more than write. I have to act. I have to organize. I have to fund bail support. I have to educate people online. I have to educate people in my community circles, however I can, because that is also part of the work. That's also a very important front on the revolution too. So this time has really focused me, I would say. My interests have never been keener. My passions have never been clearer. And I have never felt more affirmed in the reading and research that I have done in my positions than I have kind of in recent times. And so I've been directing my efforts to police abolition and to prison abolition, both here in Atlanta and on the national level, the demilitarization of police and things like that. All of those causes are very close to me because I do believe that none of us will be free unless all of us are free. So that's really where I'm coming from. I'm ready to build something better, and I hope other folks are too.
And I like this ethics that you pushed on, where our art doesn't stop at the page. That's a starting point. That's, therapy, catharsis. That's for us and for others. But our art for me, art is activism. And I hear that a lot in your viewpoints where, we've got to show up and do work outside of just spitting the poems. So I certainly appreciate that. And I'm sure my listeners will. So Mia, talk to me about your poetry background. Where are you? I know you're from North Carolina. How so is that where you started poetry? Because like for me, I'm from Chicago, but I didn't even start my poetry until I got to Atlanta. So what's your kind of background there?
Well, I actually became a poet in college. I went to college at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. Go Pirates!
Okay.
That is. Listen, I'm a pirate born and bred. Unfortunately, it's a sad indoctrination of the system, but I let it go. But I became a poet at East Carolina University. Shout out to East Carolina Word of Mouth, the poetry organization at that university that really took me in and grew me as an artist, as an individual, as an activist in a really formative time in my life. So I went to one open mic my freshman year of college at ECU, and I never left. I kept going back and sharing poems and going to organization meetings, and eventually got involved in the leadership of the organization and competing at the College Union's Poetry Slam Invitational for several years. And so I've been a competitive actor for several years, poet for several years. And so it's kind of just ingrained in me, this desire to create and this desire to produce work.
Have you ever dabbled in any other forms? Have any other forms spoken to you the way poetry has?
I would say the only other form that speaks to me in the way poetry does is music. I have actually just started making beats, making lo-fi hip hop, making kind of chill hop beats. And I can't really explain the kind of kinetic energy that I feel when I experience a very prime dance hall beat, or when Afro beats kind of washes over me. I can't really explain the way that my skin calls out to that sound. And so that's the only other medium for me that I would say kind of moves me in the way that words and poetry do.
Yes, and I will be ready whenever that drops. I'm very excited about that.
I'm just an old man in the basement right now, but we gonna the sounds and we're gonna see what it do.
Love to see it though. Love to see it. So this series is about poetry as a career, the ways that we can, to be frank, monetize it, but also, and the different ways we can be artists, whether that's full-time or part-time. Is poetry your primary source of income?
It is not. Actually, poetry is a supplementary source of income for me. I work the other part of my time at the Atlanta History Center, organizing youth programs, youth volunteer programs. And so largely because I have been able to sustain myself. I also worked for Alexis Yonde, who's a history educator online. You may be familiar with her work if you're on Twitter. She's at Lectual. She's a sex worker who does history education through Lectual Media. And so I worked for her a little bit during the past year, doing some research and education. But primarily my source of income is history education and history research and activism. That's really where my bread is likely buttered.
Okay. Is that fulfilling work to you?
Oh, absolutely. It is fulfilling. It is exhausting. It is righteous and also God-sized in that I feel often that I am making a world of difference, and I feel equally as often that I feel I'm making no difference at all. So it is a situation where I have to believe, as Angela Davis says, I have to believe that one person can change the world, and I have to believe it all the time. So, really, it's a really hard position to be in as a Black queer history educator, particularly in this time of urgency. And living in Atlanta, which is one of the most segregated cities in terms of economic disparity in the country. So it's a hard place to occupy, but I'm honored and blessed to do that work because I recognize that others may not do it well and may not do it with the intent to change. And so I honor the work and also glorify the rest.
Look, listen, okay. And there is so much work. And that's why I thought you would be dope to talk to, because a lot of people have this idea that if I'm not a full-time poet, then I'm not a poet at all. And I love the fact that you not only make time for it as a career, but you also prioritize your creative art, even with giving your time to other equally important endeavors and to other work that also brings you passion. Um, would you say you've always felt that way? Like, did you always know that you could, do poetry and come back to it? What has that relationship been like? Because I know for myself, I had moments where I was like, am I even a poet if I'm not, touring all the time? How has that worked as far as like creating identity through your art?
I would say I come from a place of extreme privilege because I came to poetry in academia. So I came to poetry as a hobby, as an extracurricular activity that was encouraged on my campus, but that was never something that was centered in terms of my career goals long term. I got my degrees at East Carolina in anthropology and classical civilization. So I am a Roman archaeologist, effectively by training. So yeah, right. So that's what I got. That's what I was setting off in the direction to change the world in. Poetry was just a way for me to render the incomplete feelings that anthropology was arising in me. It was a way to better answer, or with more nuance, answer the questions that I felt like anthropology and classics were incapable of answering because of their classism, because of their racism, because of their sexism, and because of their homophobia. So, wow. I guess I will say that I am, like I said, privileged in that I went to college and I did, quote unquote, find myself in the very stereotypical sense that people say they find themselves. I really did find who I was supposed to be. And that was always a social scientist with an ear for social justice, with a heart for social justice, but also a social science artist, someone who directs my passionate energy into creative avenues. Too often, social science is a tool to tell you what's wrong, but not how to fix it. And so I was called to art because I wanted to heal the hurt that social science was showing me.
Wow. I need to even sit with this because I'm a philosopher. And of course, when I tell people that, I'm like, I already know. Like, I already know what 10 thoughts have already rolled in your head. I'm a philosophy major. But you touch, and so I want to adjust this language, right? I don't believe we find ourselves. I believe we return to ourselves, that we are always who we are, and that we reveal ourselves to ourselves, or we are made aware of our existence and what that means. And I think that I am so proud of you because you're one of the people who I admire who say, my life isn't one way. I'm an artist and a scientist. I am a person who is in the history and in academia, but also very much aware of my existence as a marginalized person. And I value that so, so much. What do you wish you had known before exploring poetry as a career, even as a subsidized career?
I wish that I knew that I could find poetry in anything. I wish that I knew that I did not have to further marginalize myself as a Southern poet or as a quote unquote slam poet in order to be palatable to the people I was trying to reach. I wish that I had known that palatability does not lead to comfort. I wish that I had known that I could be exactly who I am, that I would not have to change anything that I say or the way that I say it in order to cultivate the right people around me. I wish that people were more honest about that, about the fact that the industry, yes, may be more, quote unquote, more ready to receive poets that don't come up in the academy, but also, it does consistently stifle their voices. And so we should continue to let them know that they are cultivating true audiences, loyal audiences, exactly where they are and with exactly what they're saying.
I hope if you're listening, you take that with you. You can cultivate community and audience exactly where you are, and that give me that palatability.
Yeah,
what did you say? Palatability does not equal
no,
comfort.
I don't. I've tried the palatability. I tried to go to graduate school and be an archaeologist and do the kind of straight and narrow that people are supposed to do. And I realized very quickly that I was not made for that. I was not made to be in an ivory tower when I know people are starving in the street. So I was not made for that. And when I know that people who look like me across time and space have always been the people starving in the street, my access to the ivory tower does not change their material conditions. So I owe it to them to go back and better the street, not better the tower.
So where I'm from, we would normally pass an offering plate at this moment. A podcast. So, I'm so glad. And I hope, I would love for you all to leave me a message at Hazel's Higher Learning, or leave me a message and let them know what you think about these ethics. Because it sounds like an ethical proposition, and it is the type of ethical proposition that I think we need more of and more awareness of, because I think, as Black artists, to talk about our privilege in spaces, right? I tell people, I show up often, and I think that it's a privilege to even communicate in a way that people understand, which is not to say that anyone else's communication or language should not be worked to understand. And that's the issue I have, right? Like, it's not for me to make you comfortable. It's for you to get where I'm coming from, and for you to listen to these voices, right? Exactly. And to acknowledge that and say, hey, my folks, I'm still here. I'm still Black, right? I'm still Black at the board meeting. I'm still, woman and femme, and I'm still all of these things. And I still owe it to people as a servant, as a public servant, as an artist, to amplify those voices and tell those stories, and to be careful with them. And that is supremely dope to me. What are your short and long-term goals in poetry, Mia?
Well, short-term goals. I have a full-length poetry book that I am trying to get published. It is done. I spent most of 2019 working on it. So I have spent most of this year shopping it to publishers and various places. So I would really love for that to get out in the world, because it is a really special piece of my heart. I really only just started identifying as non-binary, only started identifying as trans kind of wholly and fully in the last year, 18 months. And so this book is so special because it is an excavation of that non-binary identity, of that kind of straddling of genders in the Black Southern tradition, and to fall in love with this body again in a new way. So short-term goals, definitely I want that out in the world, because that is my book baby in the highest form. I would say long-term goals, I want to be the poet similar to Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin that the people turn to, Black people turn to in times of trouble and in times of joy. It really spoke to me that a friend of mine asked their Twitter timeline for their favorite poems by Black poets, and all the non-Black accounts brought tombstones, brought these heavy, sad poems about Blackness, about Black experience. And only the Black Twitter users brought flowers, brought these beautiful poems about joy, about faith, about love. And so I want to be the flower that someone brings to the space. I want to be that individual poet and to write that poem for someone. That's probably my long-term career goal. I'm not really interested in money. I'm an anti-capitalist proudly, so I'm not really interested in money. I'm not really interested in the clout. I'm not really interested in institutions. I don't do what I do for the glory of institutions. I do what I do for the glory of my people so that they remember me right. So, that's really the long-term career goal, is to be well remembered by my people, by Black people, by Black queer people.
And what a desire to have, and what a tangible desire to have. Where I come from, the organ would be playing right now, and people would be in the aisles. But we're not doing that because it's a podcast.
I'll play it in my head.
But what a goal to have, and what a thing to reach for. Does your baby have a name that you are comfortable sharing?
I will keep her name confidential right now because it actually is in flux. So I will keep her quiet for now, okay. But you will see her soon.
I'm excited. What are you most proud of so far, Mia?
I would say I am most proud of getting my grandmother to read a poetry book. Listen, my grandmother is from Eastern North Carolina, is from Hertford County, North Carolina. Ahoskie is a retirement town. It's one of the poorest counties in North Carolina. And my grandmother really didn't jive all that well with poetry because it wasn't utilitarian for her in the way that she was brought up to believe literature should be. And so my grandma read my poetry book, and then my grandma read other people's poetry books, and now my grandma. So, it's a thing where, like, I can be so proud of not only having an impact on people my age, on people that are living now, but I'm also impacting, like, my kinfolk, like people who are so close to me, who never would have seen the world the way they see it now were it not for me existing. And that is enough to make me proud. That is enough to make me want to keep going.
Enough to make anybody proud, I think any position we have, and to educate the elders, or to just offer them an alternative vantage point. And I think that there's a privilege in having elders who are acceptant to it too, who are open and who receive that. That is so supremely dope to me. And I'm so glad that my listeners got the chance to hear another story and viewpoints. I'm so grateful for you being here. I would be remiss if I did not at least invite you to offer a piece or two to the people if you're interested. The theme that I most would like poets to explore this season is justice. I think that we are now pursuing justice on a global level. We are revolting to the empire. We are seeking and demanding the abolishment of police. What does that justice look like in your work? And would you mind sharing
Sure.
it with us?
I would say justice in my work looks like a world without fear. Justice in my world looks like a world that is a world rooted in community, is rooted in trust and integrity of that community. And I would say also justice is Black. Like, I'm Black, justice is Black. It's always going to be Black for me. So that's kind of the beginning and the end of that. The Black Panthers were Marxists, were leftists, were people who were committed to change. And so for me, justice will always be synonymous with that forward-thinking, high-ordered community learning and orientation. I will share a poem with you, or two poems with you, Ashley Hayes, because I care deeply about you. And I want you to get. And I want you to get this work because I want you to be proud of me also. You're definitely an elder in terms of my experience, and somebody that I seek to earn the approval of. And so I try to read my poems in front of you as often as possible so I can see how they are. You're a good test audience. You let me know what's what.
I so don't mind. I so do not mind.
So this first poem I'm going to share is one that I wrote while I was on my residency in Pine Plains, New York. It's called A Descriptive Grammar About Gender. A, boy, B-O-Y, and boy, B-O-I, are homophones, distinguishable only by their context. Example, police officer to my father. Where are you coming from, boy? Example, lover's hand to my cheek. Where are you coming from, boy? B, the sequence of sounds, trans, is both a prefix and adjective that appears before the word it describes. Example, the Swahili name for the transatlantic slave trade is the Maafa, the catastrophe. Example, there is no Swahili word for transgender. There was no need to name the sources of the salt in the seawater before the catastrophe. C, femme, F-E-M-M-E, and femme, F-E-M, are homophones, distinguishable only by their context. Example, diamonds are a femme's best friend. Example, my femme is a home for the bloodiest hands, for those interested in testing their strength against the diamond and the rough that refuses to give her up. D, lexical semantics demonstrate that body and gender are historically synonymous. Example, this is my body, which is given for you. Example, for my gender is true food. That's a little something that I put together, you know, as obviously I came up Southern Baptist, so there will be heavy allusion to Baptist Christianity, but I'm not currently a Baptist practitioner. I converted to Zen Buddhism in college. So I'm a Rinzai Zen practitioner. So that is my kind of chosen religious life way. So that also shows up a lot in my work. Allusions to Zen appear often. I will close kind of with my favorite poem that I've written recently. It's honestly one of my favorite pieces to do on tour or read anywhere because everybody has so much fun with it. It is about a specific happening that occurred in the end of last year, and maybe you might have heard of it. On December 7th, 2019, Georgian performance artist David DeTuna entered the Art Basel Miami exhibition, removed an artwork valued at $120,000 from the gallery wall, and ate it. This is an ode to the hungry artist, the parable of the great banquet. Mere days after we paid our respects to Chairman Fred, we sat on the stoop slack-jawed as a man ate a $120,000 banana. Shook our heads and mused that the hunger's gonna kill us first. 60-second science class in the self-checkout. Appetite, like energy, cannot be lost, only change its form. So when my stomach, pockets, are empty, I bite the Armani-gloved hand that feeds me. Question. If the ancestors were sharecroppers living in Eden on credit, what was the price of the apple? Question. If we still have not tired of tilling the fields without tasting the fruit, what is the value of our heads? In the year of our Lord 2019, Jesus walked into a brightly colored spectacle, peeled forbidden yield, let teeth break skin into bleeding, performed a miracle, then smiled as centurions led him away from shocked public. Peace so still, it shows the cruelty in starving, commands its witnesses to go forth, multiply.
I get ripped every time I hear that poem. Every single time I'm like, what a privilege. What an outrage.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me, Mia. Y'all can find Mia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Poet in the Hat. PoetinthehEhat. You will also see quotes from Mia on the Hazes Higher Learning Instagram page. Would love it if you would leave a message on Anchor if you have any feedback, any praise for Mia or their work. Would love to hear it. You know where to find me at Hazes Higher Learning, Hazes Higher Learning at ashleyhayes.com. You can just Google it. You can find it. Thank you, Mia. And Mia, I usually give my folks a song of the week, and I'm sure I should have given you a little more notice. But as my guest, I would love for you to offer your song
my
of the
song
week.
of the week. I don't know. Let's see. Ashley Hayes. I think that the song of the week is probably Smino's Tempo. I think that's probably where I'm at this week. Is nice and heavy, but also, light. We're bouncing along the sidewalks. We're ready for the change to come and lift us up.
Hey, I love me some Smino, okay? Smino can do very little wrong to me. So the song of the week is Tempo by Smino. Thank you so much for tuning into Hazes Higher Learning, where together we are learning better, doing better, and being better. I will see you all next week. Thank you so much and have an awesome week.